Nama Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namane Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhaktivedanta Swami Iti Namine Namaste Saraswate Devi Gauravani Vicharini Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pastachari Shatharine Namaste Saraswate Devi Gauravani Vicharini Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pastachari Shatharine Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasant Gaur Bhaktivinoda Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna Shri Prabhupada Ki Jai Giriraj Maharaj Ki Jai Shri Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai Shri Kartik Mas Ki Jai Damadamas Ki Jai Shri Urjavrata Ki Jai Shri Damodara Lila Ki Jai Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai Giriraj Maharaj Ki Jai All glories Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai All glories to the assembled devotees All glories to Shri Guru and Gauranga All glories to Srila Prabhupada Vaishnav Kripa has raised his hand. It says on the screen. I don't know if that means anything.
And by accident, you should have touched something.
Oh, okay. And we're fortunate to say we've arrived in Govardhan Hill, as you can see. And it's Kartik, so it's the best place to be. Kartik is at the foot of Govardhan Hill. We're looking up now at the top of Govardhan Hill and imagining, trying to visualize 5,000 or more years ago when this wonderful pastime of Govardhan Lila took place, which we're not going to discuss today, maybe next week. I don't know about your calendars wherever you are, but where we are, I'm in Paris at the moment. We've been going on harinam every day for several days now, or anything from 3 to 4 or 5 hours a day on harinam. Best way to spend the Kartik Vrata, chanting the holy names, especially sharing. Prabhupada said that, yes, Vrindavan is our home, but our business is to take Vrindavan to the world and to give everyone in the world a chance to return to our home. So especially during this month, more chanting, more hearing is recommended. So whether it's at home or wherever it may be, or preaching, going on the street, whatever it is, but more chanting of the holy names of Krishna. So today I thought we would, as this week, again, I don't know your calendars, but here in France, I think on Thursday is Diwali, if I'm not mistaken. Friday is Govardhan Puja. So it's a very special week. Every day, every moment of Damodara months of Kartik is very special, of course. In fact, for Vaishnava, every moment of their lives is special. Prabhupada one time said, a devotee does Kartik every day. Of course, we have hundreds and thousands of quotes which extol the glories of the month of Damodara, and we obviously we take advantage of that, but we should do, as to some extent at least. But in one time, Prabhupada said, Kartik is for karmis. It sounds a little odd, considering all the other glorious statements which are there and other, what is saying, like that, glories of Kartik are there. But Prabhupada said Kartik is for karmis, means to say that the devotee every day is like Kartik, because it's especially meant for people who are not. It's for devotees, it's like a Kadashi, devotees take advantage. Madhavatiti Bhakti Janani. They take advantage of these days to further their devotional practices. And they're very special times where we can get extra special returns, from our, we don't want to put it in a business term, but from our investment or our devotional practices. So, but karmis in general, fruitive workers, people who are entangled in the material world, Ekadashi, Kartik Vrata, etc., are very incentives for them. Devotees should be 24/7 all year round. We may not be on that level, but ideally, as a devotee's position, they're constantly engaged in devotional service. Whereas the karmas are constantly engaged in material, trying to get material returns from their existence. So Kartik and Ekadashi are really valuable in that sense. Of course, in the Western world, nobody's ever heard of it. It's like an unheard day of the month. They don't have any understanding, even knowledge of its existence. But somehow or another, if people can engage with, say, karmis, we're not talking about people in general. We're talking about pious people who are aware of, Vedic, let's say, standards. They're aware of, religious principles. They're aware of, culture somewhat. They're called karmis. 99.9% of people, at least in the Western world, are called vikarmis. Their only objective in life is sense gratification. They follow next to no religious principles. In let's say, molding their lives that they try to live, all based on sense gratification. So they're not karmis, they're vikarmis. Karmis are those who are following Vedic directions, although they're attached. They're fruits of their work, they're maybe attached to the body, attached to their families and so on. But they're following the proper system, the varnashram system, the Vedic system of regulation and ultimately detachment from Maya or material sense gratification and attachment to the service of Krishna ultimately. So they're karmis. So this especially is good for such devotee. Let's not say, I can't exactly say devotee, but maybe some element of devotion there, but they're somewhat faith in the Vedic scriptures or religious principles or sadhus or something. The karmis, and then the vikarmis don't follow anything. They don't care. They don't even know about it. So Prabhupada is referring to pious people specifically. And even the vikarmis, if someone or other they are engaged in devotional service during this month, they're very fortunate. Extremely fortunate. Anytime, all the year round, but especially in this month. So we're going to start. I'm not going to break the ice. I'm going to break the ice, but I'm not going to break the secret of why we're doing this. So we're going to sing, and I'm going to try to share screen now with, and you can follow. It's going to be a little interesting. I'm in Paris, and we're going to also at the end of we're going to share Damodara Astakam. We're going to sing it together, if that's okay. All together. Now, don't put your mic, don't unmute yourself. But we're going to sing it. How should we do it? Should we sing it all simultaneously? What do you think? Because you can't hear anyone. Well, yeah, it's not difficult, but you can't hear anyone else. They can only hear myself and themselves anyway. So And otherwise we can't hear anything anyway. We have to simply repeat again. Well, okay, we will repeat it just for the sake of it, okay? We will repeat it. So I'll sing first and then you sing, as normal in Damodara Astakam. And at the end, when we finish the Damodara Astakam, then we'll sing Hare Krishna. And during that time, we'll have a picture of a Damodar pastime on the screen. And if you have a lamp or a little candle or something, you can offer that to the picture, and we can have like a virtual, whatever, offering of lamps, but we won't necessarily see each other doing it. I don't think we will anyway, but we'll have some kind of virtual offerings like that. Okay, so I'm going to try now to share screen. And where am I going to go? PowerPoint, this one here. Oh, it's not been set up properly. That's the wrong one.
No, you clicked on the wrong one.
Did I?
Yes.
So we got to stop here, is it?
Yes.
Give us a few seconds here. These things quite often take a little time.
This one.
Yes, when I clicked on. We had this problem last time when we had 3 screens open. Share?
Yes. Okay, maybe now you can select which one of the PowerPoint.
Is it on? I don't know if everyone's.
Yes, that's what they see.
Oh, great. Yeah. Okay. So we're going to now press that one now. Anyway, it's 2 or 2. And you should be able to see it now. And is that right, Rasika? Thumbs up?
Yes.
Okay.
Ma'am.
Good. So we're going to sing now. So I'll sing. I presume most people online, if not all, are familiar with this song, which is generally sung in ISKCON and other Gaudiya devotees at least sing this daily during the month of Kartik, at least if you're in a position to do so. And if you're wherever you are, please join us. Thank you for being with us today. Namami Ishvaram Sachim Anandarupam Lasat Kundalam Gokule Brajamanam
Vishwanam Sachit Anantarupam.
Too loud. Yasodabhyo Lokalatavamanam Paramishtam Chantatodutagopyam Lokalatavamanam
Paramishtam Chantatodutagopyam
Udantam Mohonitam Yugmam Rijantam Karam Bhoja Yugmena Satam Kanetram
Udantam Mohonitam Yugmam Rijantam Karam Bhoja Yugmena Satam Kanetram
Mohashvasakam Patri Rekakakanta Sita Gragam Damo Taram Bhakti Badam
Mohashvasakam Patri Rekakakanta Sita Gragam Damodaram Bhakti Badam
Iti Tritva Lila Bir Ananda Kunde Sagosham Nimajantam Kyapayantam
Trisvarira Virananta Kunde Swagoshami Majantam Akyapayantam
Tadiyeshitageshu bhaktajitatvam puna prematastam chatavriti vande.
Adiyashitageshu bhaktajitatvam puna prematastam shata vriti vande.
Param deva moksham na mokshavadin va Nachanam vineha pravesharapiha.
Varam deva moksham na moksham vadimva Nachanyam vineham vareshadapiya.
Idam te vaponata gopala balam sadame manasya parashtam kimanyai.
Idam tiva punata gopala bara Sadame manasya virastam kimane.
Idam te mukambojam atyanta nilai Vitam kuntalai snigdharaktai sagopyam Kambojam atyanta nilai Vitam kuntalai snigdharaktai
Gopya
Muhasya vitam bimba tadaname Manasya varastam alam lakshalabhe Muhasya vitam bimba
rakta darame Manasya virastam maram lakshalave.
Namo Deva Damodarananta Vishnu Prasida Prabodhuka Jalakti Magnam.
Namo Deva Damodarananta Vishnu Prasida Prabodhuka Jalati Magam.
Kripa Drishti Visyati Dinam Vatanu Vihani Shamamagyam Edakshadishya.
Vipadriti Vishyati Dinambatanu Vihanishamamagyam Medhyakshidrisha.
Kuverat Vajobhada Mujaiva Yadvat Vayo Mujito Bhakti Vajokito Cha.
Kuveratma Jobhada Muteva Yata Nayamuchito Bhakti Vajokrito Cha.
Aprema Bhaktim Svakam Me Prayachcha Namo Shigo Misti Damodareho.
Tata Prema Bhaktim Sakam Me Prayata Namo Shigraho Mesti Damodareya.
Namastutu Damne Pura Dipti Damne Tvadiyo Rayatra Shvasya Damne.
Astitu Damne Spura Dipti Damne Tvadiyo Darayata Vishvashadamne.
Namo Radhikaya Tvadiya Priyaye Namo Nanta Lilaya Devaya Tubhyam.
Namo Radhikaya Tvadiya Priyaye Namo Namkadilaya Devaya Tubhyam.
Namo Radhikaya Tvadiya Priyaye Namo Nanta Lilaya Devaya Tubhyam.
Namo Radhikaya Tvadiya Priyaye Namo Namkadilaya Devaya Tubhyam.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, O Rama, Hare Hare. Now we'll carry on in a few moments chanting, but if you wish to offer a lamp to the, you have probably got that picture on the screen or in your house or wherever you are, you can offer a lamp if you wish to, well, isn't it interesting? It's Yasoda Damodar. And we are seeing Radha Damodar. We can offer a picture, a lamp to this beautiful painting, image of that painting of Mother Yasoda binding baby Krishna. Look at his face. Look at their eyes, his eyes. And Mother Yasoda binding him up to the grinding mortar. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna,
Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Jaya Radha Damodara, Radha Damodara, Radhe.
Jaya
Radha Damodara, Radha Damodara, Radhe. Jaya Radha Damodara, Radha Damodara, Radhe.
Jaya
Radha Damodara,
Radha Damodara Radhe.
Jaya Radha Damodara, Radha Damodara, Radhe.
Jaya Radha Damodara Radha Damodara Radhe.
Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada.
Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada.
Shri Radha Damodar ki jai, Shri Prabhupada ki jai, Shri Giriraj Maharaj ki jai, Shri Vrindavan Dham ki jai, Kartik Vrata ki jai. All glorious to the assembled devotees. All glorious to Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga. All glorious to Srila Prabhupada. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pastaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namani. Namaste Saraswati Devi. Gauravani Pracharine Nevasesha Sanyavadi Pastachade Shatarine. Hare Krishna, Vanchakalpa tarubhyascha kripa sindubhyepicha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. So welcome everybody this morning, evening, afternoon, night, whatever it is, to Govardhana Hill, to Sri Vrindavan Dham. We've taken a quick journey on the vehicle of the mind, at least, to Vrindavan. This is, you could say, our inner meditation to always be in the consciousness of Sri Vrindavan Dham. Even though we may be in Auckland, Wellington, Sydney, Brisbane, Melbourne, Malaysia, Philippines, Hungary, Germany, Ireland, England, Scotland, Holland, France, Switzerland, wherever, Croatia, Slovakia, India, Fiji, wherever we are at this moment. Let us try now this morning to, let's say, focus our hearts on being in the association of the Dham, of the Nam, and of the Vaishnava devotees, the Ragatmikas, the eternal associates of the Lord. The Dham is composed, you could say, of the Lord's loving associates. This is what makes the Dham, the presence. Everything in the spiritual world is alive. In the material world, we see people and we see objects. We see nature. And we tend to, naturally, see difference there. Of course, there is variety. There is simultaneous one and difference, even in the transcendental platform. But in the spiritual world, the appearance of skies is alive. It appears simply for the pleasure of Krishna. Krishna's internal, you could say, energy, but at the same time it's fully cognizant, spiritually aware, conscious, existing for the pleasure of Krishna. It's not just some inert backdrop. Fully conscious, adjusting itself exactly to the will of the Lord. If Krishna wants lightning, then lightning appears. Whatever, it's, let me say, sometimes people, we watch some kind of strange, something, what do you call it, creation on the screen of somebody. And it's like, maybe call it imaginary or fictitious or something. Some things are happening which are, impossible in the sense of our daily, but it comes out of the imagination of the living entity. But the spiritual world is born out of the heart of Krishna, an expansion of his desire. Everything's like that. We also are meant to be, in that sense, an expansion of Krishna's desire, but we have the free will to choose whether to be, let's say, favorable or unfavorable in that sense towards Krishna's will. To see ourselves as the enjoyer or to see Krishna as the enjoyer, to exist for Krishnendriya or Atmandriya for the pleasure of Krishna or for our own pleasure, or what we think is our own pleasure. It's not really our own pleasure, it just appears to be from the ignorant point of view. So today we're going to here now on Thursday here in France is the day of Diwali. Friday is Govardhan Puja. So I thought today we'll hear something from Srila Prabhupada on his commentary of the 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. And I'm going to be reading and commenting a little bit maybe on the 10th canto, chapter 9. If you have your books with you or maybe some other method, mobile or whatever it is, you may follow if you wish, or you can just try to hear. Hearing is a secret. I would say that most, from my point of view at least, that when we first came to the Hare Krishna movement, living in the temple, Nobody had their own books. What to speak of computers or mobile phones, they were unheard of. We had to hear, because only one book, of most of the books, only one was available. So we had to sit and hear. Everyone would sit together in the temple mostly and hear somebody reading from Nectar Devotion, Ishopanishad, or whatever, Bhagavatam, like that. In this way, one was very attentive, because this was really our only chance to, to imbibe or to hear from the words of Srila Prabhupada. We didn't even have tape recorders. We very rarely got the opportunity to hear recorded lectures of Srila Prabhupada. It was mostly hearing from other devotees, and specifically hearing what Prabhupada has written or said. So before we do that, I can cancel this now. I can.
It's not shown on the screen.
It's not, okay. So I just like to, a little bit in the beginning, just set the scene a little bit. Some of Srila Prabhupada's words about Srimad Bhagavatam, about topics concerning Krishna, very beautiful. Prabhupada, in one lecture in 69, New Vrindavan, each and every word of Srimad Bhagavatam, full of volumes of explanation, each and every word. This is Srimad Bhagavatam, Vidya Bhagavatavadi. One's learning will be understood when he's able to understand Srimad Bhagavatam. It's not easy to understand Srimad Bhagavatam. We know that even I think it's Lord Shiva said, I may understand, Shukadev Goswami may understand. I'm not sure if Vyasadeva understands or not. Well, he's the compiler. So in general, he said, it is not easy to understand Srimad Bhagavatam. It is a revelation given by the mercy of the Bhagavats, that's the devotees of the Lord, pure devotees of the Lord, who reveal this truth of Krishna, truth of Srimad Bhagavatam, and the means by which we can realize the truth, the means of pure bhakti, pure devotional service. Krishna is only captured by pure devotion. And today's pastime, which we're going to read in a few minutes, is focused on this. The only way we can really capture Srimad Bhagavatam or realize Srimad Bhagavatam is through pure devotional service. And what that is, we'll hear later on. Of course, the ultimate feature, factor involved, is Krishna's mercy. We cannot understand Srimad Bhagavatam without Krishna. His mercy is entirely dependent upon his mercy to reveal the actual Srimad Bhagavatam, or the essence of Srimad Bhagavatam, which is Krishna himself. Yes, so one's learning will be understood when he's able to understand Srimad Bhagavatam. This knowledge means vidya, actually, of course, learning how to understand it. Vidya means learning, not this science and that science. What is the use of all this mundane knowledge? Where does it help us to understand Krishna? It can be used in Krishna's service. That's the only thing. And yes, and this is the highest form of education. That's why Lord Chaitanya says in the Sikshastika, this is of all knowledge, this Sankirtan movement is the highest knowledge, topmost knowledge, because it is the result of knowledge, is to enter into the mood of Sankirtan. By the performance of genuine Sankirtan, that Krishna is pleased to reveal himself. Prabhupada, in a very famous quote here, in a lecture in Los Angeles in 1974, said, these are the Bhagavat. And there's two Bhagavats, person and book. These are the Bhagavat. There is no comparison, Prabhupada said. There is no literature throughout the universe like Srimad Bhagavatam. There is no comparison. There is no competition. Every word is for the good of the human society. Every word, each and every word is not just like, a chapter. Every word, that words we may not even consider are any, they just seem like an ordinary word. It's not like Krishna or harinam or something. the, he, whatever word it is, every word of the Bhagavatam is transcendental. They're all connected to Krishna. Therefore, we stress so much in this book distribution. Somehow or another, if the book goes in one's hand, he will be benefited. At least he will see, oh, they have taken so much price. Let me see what is there. If he reads one shloka, his life will be success. If he reads one shloka, one word, this is such a nice thing. Therefore, we are stressing so much. Please distribute books. Please distribute book. Distribute book. Greater Madanga, Prabhupada said. We are chanting, playing our Madanga. It is heard within this room. Or maybe little more. But this Madanga, book distribution, will go home to home, country to country, community to community. This Madanga. Prabhupada was so, gave his life, you could say, for Srimad Bhagavatam. He spent his days and nights, practically nighttime translating and commenting, daytime glorifying, preaching Bhagavat to everybody. So today we're going to read from Srimad Bhagavatam, and we do request everyone online to please, if you have your own Bhagavatam or some other way of reading it, get your own. I don't want to just put the screen on at this point in time, if that's okay. And please try to share this Bhagavatam with others. Even if we don't understand it, and we're not even inclined to go, say, read regularly, although we should be, at least we can share it with others. Give them the chance to receive this mercy for Srimad Bhagavatam. And by distributing books, Prabhupada said that all of Prabhupada's books are, in one sense, Srimad Bhagavatam. They're either means to approach the Bhagavatam, descriptions of the Bhagavatam, descriptions of the process to understand Bhagavatam, or directly Srimad Bhagavatam. They're all based on this eternal existence of our eternal nature and our relationship with Krishna. So today we're going to hear, some of you may be very inclined. Now, is one interesting feature about this pastime and about why we sang Damodara just now, and maybe later on we'll read the translation if time allows. You can read it yourself also, but it's sometimes devotees wonder why we sing Damodara, and this pastime particularly is an interaction, predominantly at least, an interaction between Mother Yasoda and Krishna. There are others involved, Rohini, Balaram, coward boys, Nanda Maharaj, but we don't see, directly speaking, very much involvement. In fact, this pastime takes place in Krishna's Boli Lila in his, when he was in Kishore, stage of Kishore. We have the three stages of Krishna life, Kumara. Kumara stage, Poganda stage, and Kishore stage, where Krishna is in his Kumara stage, his childhood pastimes is mainly interacting with Mother Yasoda. Poganda is predominantly coward boy pastimes, and Kishore is mainly with the gopis. So whereas Radharani coming into this pastime, it's not mentioned particularly, and certainly the age which Krishna is manifesting to Mother Yasoda, which we hear about. Of course, Krishna's eternal situation is Kishore, his eternal, say, original situation. All others expand from that, different races, etc., expand. But in the sequence of Krishna's pastimes, manifested, you could say, in the unmanifested pastimes, that's okay, a Prakrit Lila, we maybe understand that, but in the Prakrit Lila, it appears that Radharani is not very much in the picture at this point of time. She's also a baby or a very young girl at this stage. And why we sing Radha? Jaya Radha Damodara, why not Yasoda Damodara? I've heard devotees sing Yasoda Damodara, but it's not very often. Well, there are very transcendental reasons for this. not just because it's easier to sing. I mean, perhaps the actual answer is it's easier to sing. Jaya Radha Damodara is a bit hard to sing. Jaya Yasoda Damodara, it doesn't rhyme so well. That's one good reason, but there's other reasons too, I'm sure. And I'm sure there are many other reasons I don't even know about. I've only heard perhaps one or two, but the one good reason is that during this month, particularly, when generally speaking, we celebrate this binding, or say, recognize this binding of Krishna by Mother Yasoda every day. Radharani, when she heard about this pastime, she became in ecstasy and declared this as her favorite pastime, because her life's goal, her existence, is to bind up Krishna. And here Mother Yasoda is binding her, not so much with ropes, that's another pastime, but rather with the ropes of her loving affection. So Radharani wanted similarly to bind Krishna with her loving affection. And this is not only a pastime of Vatsalya Ras or motherly affection. Radharani also had this opportunity. Krishna fulfilled her desire one time, or eternally, whichever way we look at it. In the forests, in the groves of Vrindavan, she also was able to bind Krishna with vines from the forest to a tree and fulfilling her desire. So it's her favorite pastime, and Krishna also fulfilled her desire. She also bound Krishna. Anyway, aside from that, it's as always, only we can approach Krishna, especially followers of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. We may, if ever that day should come, we actually come to the platform of pure devotion. That's another thing, but at least we understand that Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and most of his followers are predominantly serving Krishna in Madhurya Ras, various aspects of Madhurya Ras. So in Madhurya Ras, obviously, the ultimate goal is to assist Radharani in her service to Krishna. So for the Gaudiya Vaishnavas particularly, we don't emphasize so much in our practices, in our cultivation of devotion, so much Vatsalya Bhav, or the motherly affection, or the parental affection mood. Of course, we hear about it a lot, and it's a big part of our, you could say, scriptural readings, etc. But ultimately, the goal of most Gaudiya Vaishnavas is Madhurya Ras, ultimately the highest platform of loving exchange. Within Madhurya Ras, all other rasas, you could say, are contained to at least to a certain degree. So now we're going to begin reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, if you're ready, for our own purification and to say absorption in what we're meant to be absorbed in. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. 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 9th chapter of the 10th canto. Now this translation, this is one of the last chapters that Srila Prabhupada personally translated and commented upon. He translated up to the 13th chapter of the 10th canto. And that was the stealing of the calves and the cows by Lord Brahma. After that, there was no complete translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada. He did translate some of the verses. He did comment on some of the verses, no doubt. But primarily after the 13th chapter, starting with 14, was translated and commented upon by very, we say, qualified devotees within ISKCON, which we have also available. And I recommend you to read it when you get to that point. Don't just say, well, it wasn't translated by Prabhupada. Prabhupada wanted it translated. And anyway, we're not going to get into that today, but another day we'll talk about that. So we're going now to text 1 and 2. I'm going to start with text number 1 and read through this 9th chapter. If you have your books or your whatever you use there to read Srila Prabhupada's books, you might want to follow along with us, or you can just try to hear. Hearing is the secret of spiritual advancement, and basically it's based on our attentive. Just hear with rapt attention. Sutta Goswami says, I have explained to you, and I will try to explain to you rather, this subject matter. Parikshit Maharaj was asking, or in this case, the sages of Naimisharanya were asking him to speak on topics concerning Krishna. So he said, I will try, as far as my ability allows, to speak on these topics. Kindly listen with rapt attention. And Prabhupada said, if we hear with rapt attention, we will see Krishna on the pages of the Srimad Bhagavatam. And of course, to hear with rapt attention, it's not easy. One has to be pure. Everyone's eating, sleeping, mating, and defending. That's why regulated principles are so important, so that our hearing capacity becomes clearer, and one may be able to attentively hear the holy name and hear Krishna Katha from Srimad Bhagavatam. So hearing with rapt attention, pure in heart, purifying our hearts. Through devotional service, by rendering service to the pure devotees who are freed of all vice. Great service is done by such service. One develops an attraction, affinity for hearing the messages of Vasudeva. And when we develop that attraction through service, by the mercy of the pure devotees of Krishna, one may develop an attraction, then Krishna removes from our heart all traces, Srinvatam Sata Krishna, Punya Shravana Kirtana. And by this hearing process, which is the highest, most auspicious activity, basically, the Lord cleanses our heart of all traces of material attraction. But it depends on the mercy of the Lord. On the Maharaj side, cultivating attentive hearing of the holy name and Bhagavad Gita or Krishna Kirtana. So try to hear, whether you're reading it or following it on your whatever form you've got with the book, or simply hearing. Either way, try to hear from the pure Bhagavan, Srila Prabhupada. But I'm not a very pure media, to say the least, but what to do? We do our best. Text number 1. Sometimes I'll read the purport, maybe not always. Sri Shukadeva Goswami said, or continued rather, one day when Mother Yasoda saw that all the maidservants were engaged in other household affairs, she personally began to churn the yogurt. While churning, she remembered the childish activities of Krishna, and in her own way, she composed songs and enjoyed singing to herself about all of those activities. And there's a very important purport to this verse, which we'll read. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, quoting from the Vaishnav Toshini of Srila Sanatana Goswami, says that the incident of Krishna's breaking the pot of yogurt and being bound by Mother Yasoda took place on the Diwali day, or Deepamalika. So this, many of you know that already. Some of you may not know that. But this pastime took place on Diwali day. We often hear, why Diwali? Oh, Ramchandra returning to Ayodhya. Krishna killed, what was the name of that demon that he killed? Somebody or another. And different things we hear, the killing of this demon, that demon, different things that supposedly took place on Diwali day. But at least from my point of view, to me, this is the most significant factor of Diwali. It's the day when Krishna actually was bound by Mother Yasoda to the grinding mortar. So that's good enough reason to celebrate Diwali. Even today in India, this festival, it means Diwali, is generally celebrated very gorgeously in the month of Kartik by fireworks and lights, especially in Bombay. Some of you are from Bombay. It is to be understood, Mumbai, it is to be understood that among all the cows of Nanda Maharaj, several of Mother Yasoda's cows ate only grasses so flavorful that the grasses would automatically flavor the milk. Mother Yasoda wanted to collect the milk from these cows, make it into yogurt, and churn it into butter personally, since she thought that this child Krishna is going to the houses of neighborhood gopas and gopis to steal butter because he did not like the milk and yogurt ordinarily prepared. As he had countless maidservants preparing unlimited milk preparations for Krishna. But someone or other, Mother Yasoda was thinking that because Krishna is not satisfied with all of these preparations, somehow or another, he is going to the neighboring gopis' houses and trying to steal their butter and yogurt. Well, of course, there's truth in everything, you can say it here, but there's much more to it. Krishna was enjoying that pastime of stealing, so were the gopis and gopas, enjoying that Krishna was coming to their houses and steal. Although they would complain, they were enjoying it like anything. It was such a deep, loving exchange. They were getting the chance to have parental affection with Krishna and so on and so forth, satisfying their inner heart's desires, even though they were complaining. And it wasn't that Krishna wasn't satisfied exactly, but his satya is never satiated, always wants. It's like a kid, they're always looking for excitement and variety and, whatever. That's something very different, something different. So Krishna is enjoying this. Very, it was early in the morning. I haven't woken up yet. This word, we get very kind of like, and a child, anticipant, you do something, it's like, ooh, you might get in trouble. And it's kind of like, huh? Anyway, there's a word for it. But it's something it's like the adrenaline going up inside. Exhilarating. It's different words could be used to express the effect of this. Stealing, you might get caught, but it's all fun. It's like part of the lila, and Krishna's enjoying like anything, stealing from the gopis. And so then Mother Yasoda, from her point of view, every angle has its own point of view, is thinking, it must be, why is Krishna stealing? When we have so many wonderful preparations, why go anywhere else? Vishaya vinivartantes, paramdishra. They've got the highest taste here in my home. Why is he going anywhere else? Must be a good reason. He's not satisfied. So therefore, she selected about 100 of the best cows in her 900,000. Those 900,000 cows in her herd were the best of all the cows. And amongst those 900,000, she selected 100 who were the best of the 900,000. As you just heard, these 900,000, their milk was already completely flavored. You cannot imagine the flavor. Is not just the taste, but the flavor. The nose and the tongue are very much attached to each other. When food has a very, very pleasant flavor, it increases the appetite, and it actually helps us to digest the food, attracts us, and the taste is much greater enhanced by the smell. Have you ever tried taking prasadam with someone burning incense next to you? You can't taste the food. It's just pervaded with the flavor of incense. Don't burn incense when you're taking prasadam, or at least keep it at a far distance, so it doesn't enter the nostrils and interfere with the taste buds. It does. The two are very connected. That smells good, huh? So that milk was so flavorful. You could smell the milk. Okay, sometimes you could smell a little bit, but not much. But this milk was so flavorful, you couldn't resist the smell. It was just like magnetic. So she was making the yogurt from this milk. And, to make butter and ghee, you can make it in different ways. But you make it from yogurt, and you churn and churn and churn and churn. And can you imagine? I mean, we have a butter here. I don't know what it's called in France. What's it called? Something. There you go. Something like that. And sometimes you make your own butter. You know how good it is when you make your own butter, especially for your own cow milk. If you haven't got a cow, even if you make it from milk from the cow or from the farmer, if you can get farm milk, you can taste the difference. It's so deep and rich and sweet, much tastier. if you do it properly. Of course, it has to be whole milk, not that you take all the goodness out of the milk and you're just left with some white watered down substance practically. But if you have the real milk, oh my goodness, you get Jersey cows, Guernsey cows, Cornish clotted cream. It's so thick. So Mother Yasoda was thinking like that. And she was all in the purport Prabhupada saying like that there are so many, they must be so busy. Mother Yasoda's thing they're all so busy, so I have to do it. But it also understood from Kartik Mahatmya that the Mother Yasoda is thinking that somehow or other he's not satisfied by all the butter and milk and products that all my servants and maidservants are making. I have to do it myself. I have to bind him up myself to stay at home. Don't go away. Don't go stealing. So she's thinking, I have to try at least to make it. So she was herself took on this transcendently ecstatic service. And sometimes when we try to get devotees to make the milk sweets, or to try to make the butter or yogurt or ghee or something, oh no, I'm too busy. I'll get someone else to do it. I did it last week. I'm fed up with doing this. I have to do it every week. No, we should be thinking, my God, am I lucky? I'm the most fortunate person in the universe to get this opportunity to do, this is Mother Yasoda's eternal business. And we're thinking it's a burden. Just see how fallen we are, how unfortunate we are. Fortunate and unfortunate. Fortunate to get the opportunity, unfortunate not to take it. Sometimes that happens. Fortunate if we take it, but it should be with this spirit. We're fortunate, not that we're proud. See, I'm a follower of Mother Yasoda or something crazy. And of course, we may be aspiring in that way, but that shouldn't be a thinking. I am very advanced. Most fall on behalf of my spiritual master and our parampara. They have asked me on their behalf to do this service for their pleasure, so they can offer that service to Krishna. We're humble. So we carry on. So Mother Yasoda is now going to churn the yogurt with the intention of making nice butter or milk sweets for Krishna. While churning the butter, so it's turning into butter now, Mother Yasoda was singing. This is another aspect of this pastime. She was singing about the childhood activities of Krishna. It was formerly a custom that if one wanted to remember something constantly, he would transform it into poetry, or have this done by a professional poet. It appears that Mother Yasoda did not want to forget Krishna's activities at any time. Therefore, she poeticized all of Krishna's childhood activities, such as the killing of Putana, Aghasura, Shakatasura, and Trinavarta. Be nice if those poems were available. Of course, they'd be in whatever Brijbasi, Sanskrit, whatever language she's doing it in. Therefore, and while churning the butter, she sang about those pastimes in poetical form. Everyone, oftentimes when we're doing something, we sing. I don't know what you sing, but often it's quite common. Even in the material world, people sing when they're doing things, if they're in a good mood or some kind of mood, to let's say enhance or to, which is compatible to the particular situation they're in. It's quite common. So Mother Yasoda was singing poeticized songs about the wonderful pastimes of her son Krishna. So we may not be able to do that, or maybe whatever, but at least we can sing Hare Krishna while we're doing. Everything's contained within the Maha Mantra. While we're doing our activities, Jiva Goswami says we should also chant Hare Krishna. When you're cooking, cleaning, even in the bathroom, bathing, evacuating, whatever we're doing. And just a reminder, that's all, and not that we're doing it, but to remind us that we should be doing it. We should, as much as possible, be filling every moment with service, but also accompanied by the chanting of the holy name of Krishna. Goswami says this way we can become free from the false ego, which tends to sometimes override our remembrance of Krishna and start awakening within us that I'm doing this and I'm doing that. And I'm doing it very well, maybe better than others even. Or whatever it is. Or the opposite side, I can't do this, I can't do that, I'm useless. Both false ego. It's not humility. Another form of false ego, whether proud or otherwise. Another form of false ego. So to become free from that, is just keep chanting Hare Krishna while we do our services. Or if we can sing songs. It's why great devotees like Narottam Das, Lochan Das, Thakur, Bhaktivinoda Thakur have given us hundreds and thousands of songs, thousands, at least we have hundreds of songs from those great acharyas which we can sing. And we can perhaps sing them at certain times of the day, which are appropriate. For instance, now here it's morning time, we might sing morning tune, morning song. And in the evening you sing different songs, Kiva Jayo and Paramakaruna and songs like that, which are primarily evening songs. Gaigora Madhusray and Boga Archie song in the daytime. You can sing these songs come those particular time of the day. It helps to remind us of Krishna, to bring us into the pastimes of the Lord a little bit more, or Lord Chaitanya. The real Karam, but this is a very nice thing. In the 11th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, Uddhava describes how Krishna's pastimes should be described or should be shared in dramatic form, poetic form, various ways. And this way it goes deeper into the heart. Goes deeper into the heart and becomes enjoyable, especially with kids. With adults, I don't know where we're at, but it might also be more enjoyable. But especially for children, they become attracted when they see it in an animated way or in a poetic way or dramatic or beautifully presented in a musical way. Pastimes of Krishna. If ever you've been to Vrindavan, Dham, and you've been in Vrindavan at this time of year, quite often you see, not only this time of year, other times of year too, local dramatic troupes. They may or may not be pure, but the kind of lesson there is to see how much they are presenting Krishna's pastimes in dramatic, musical, poetic form, and how it attracts people. How it attracts people. People come by the thousands just to watch and absorb themselves in the lila, because it is so embellished with music and dance and poetry, and dramatic performance, and so on and so forth. Amazing experience sometimes. So also we can do that in our own, even in our home with our kids, or the temple, or wherever it is, to present Krishna's pastimes in a very sweet and memorable way, and a very pure way. Not that we should speculate. You don't need to do that. And just because the more pure we are, the more effective it will be. But nonetheless, we just take those pastimes as they are explained, not as we imagine or would like, but as they're explained by the pure devotees of the Lord, and presented in a very digestible way. Very digestible. Sometimes just to read is not so easy to follow. People get bored, attention span. But when there's variety and people are dancing and playing musical instruments, and poetizing it, and intrigue is there, and acting is there, so on and so forth, and then it becomes much easier to follow and to become, and without even knowing it, you're becoming absorbed. And that's why great devotees write songs also. People, by singing these songs, become purified, become devotees just by singing the songs, because there's a deep meaning in these songs which purifies us. And people can relate to it, at least in Bengal, it's very common. Let's see, where are we now? She poeticized all these pastimes. This should be, Prabhupada goes on to say, this should be the practice of persons eager to remain Krishna conscious 24 hours a day. This incident shows how Krishna conscious Mother Yasoda was. To stay in Krishna consciousness, we should follow such persons. We follow the example, we can't imitate. Mother Yasoda is she's the origin of the Vatsalya Bhav. We can never become Mother Yasoda, we can follow in her mood. Prabhupada says to think I can become Yasoda is Mayavad philosophy. Any more than to think I can become Krishna is Mayavad philosophy. To think I can become one of the Ragatmakas, the eternal associates of the Lord, is Mayavad philosophy. The process of devotional service, which we are presently following Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti, is the forerunner of Raganuga Sadhana Bhakti, if we're following the Vaidhi Bhakti under the direction of Raganuga. In of itself, it doesn't necessarily lead to Raganuga Bhakti. It remains reverential and may lead to Vaikuntha, but it will not lead to Golok. One must follow a Ragatmika. Srila Prabhupada is a Ragatmika Bhakta, and he's come down to this platform of, you could say, practicing a pure Madhya stage in order to show us how we can become qualified to also become Raganuga. We may not become a Ragatmika, but we can become a Raganuga, a follower of the Ragatmika, one who follows in their footsteps of these eternal associates of the Lord. So we try to follow their directions in the Vaidhi process, and by their grace, if we follow sincerely, once the anarthas are removed, following their footsteps, it transforms. Naturally, Prabhupada writes, Rupa Goswami writes, that this practicing of devotional service transforms into spontaneity in due course of time. It's not something we artificially practice, imitate, etc., etc. We may hear about it from the pure devotees of the Lord, but we can't superimpose it. It develops spontaneously and naturally within the heart as the heart becomes purified, a natural bhava or attraction to the Lord, and the Lord's devotees will awaken. It's not something which is imposed out of our imagination or our sentiment. Real sentiments only manifest when the heart is pure. Real sentiments mean pure sentiments. Up to now, there's mixed sentiments. We are attracted to a certain degree to some aspects of devotional service, to certain devotees, etc., etc., certain pastimes. Maybe some attraction is there, but it's not pure. It's mixed. It's not with full knowledge or full realization of our nature, because there's still an artist there in our heart. We're going to move on to the next verse. We're not being able to cover the whole chapter today. We'll carry on next week. Maybe. Let's see. Dressed in, this is text number 3. Dressed in saffron yellow sari, which is with a belt tied about her full hips, Mother Yasoda pulled on the churning rope. Let's try to visualize this. There's no harm in visualizing this. We should visualize Giriraj, Maharaj, Giri Govardhan, Krishna. Yes, we make the effort. We don't say, oh, it'll come when it'll come. We have to make the effort also. We can try to focus on Mother Yasoda now, dressed in a saffron yellow sari with a belt tied about her full hips. Mother Yasoda pulled on the churning rope, laboring considerably, her bangles and earrings moving and vibrating, and her whole body shaking because of her intense love for her child. Her breasts were wet with milk. Her face, with very beautiful eyebrows, was wet with perspiration, and malati flowers were falling from her hair. Purple. Anyone who desires to be Krishna conscious in motherly affection or parental affection should contemplate the bodily features of Mother Yasoda. It is not that one should desire to become like Mother Yasoda, is where Prabhupada said it here actually. For this is Mayavad. Either in parental affection or conjugal love, friendship or servitorship, in any way we must follow in the footsteps of the inhabitants of Vrindavan, not try to become like them, but follow in their footsteps. Therefore, this description is provided here. Advanced devotees must cherish this description, always thinking of Mother Yasoda's features, how she was dressed, how she was working and perspiring, how beautifully the flowers were arranged in her hair, and so on. One should take advantage of the full description provided here by thinking of Mother Yasoda in maternal affection for Krishna, or whatever. We're the interesting, you could say, opportunity for us it would be a bit imaginative or wishful thinking to start to say, oh yes, I am in Vatsalya Bhav. I am in Sakya Bhav. No, I'm in Madhurya Bhav. Or perhaps I'm in Dasya Bhav. Hopefully we're not in, let's see, maybe neutral stage is also there in Golok Vrindavan, but generally speaking, it's the four active bhavs that one would be aspiring for, at least for those who are devotees of Krishna, and certainly not the Sayugya Mukti or the impersonal stage of neutrality, that's for sure. But we don't generally look to that direction. I want to be, I want to be a part, I don't know how we say it, part of the sky or something, I don't know how you say it. It's not usually the mood of a devotee. Like to maybe attracted to one of these paths, but it's at this stage it's just a transformation stage. It's not necessarily an indication of one's eternal sthayi bhava or eternal nature. But we can see in this situation we're in, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Radha and Krishna themselves appeared with their associates. Many of those associates are in different moods, different bhavas. Primarily they're in Madhurya Bhav, but not all. Some are in Datsya Bhav, Sakya Bhav, Vatsalya Bhav, like that. Especially in Nityananda's group, they're in Sakya Bhav mainly. And others are in other moods. Not so much Vatsalya Bhav, I don't think, in Krishna. Of course, Sachi Devi is there, Mishra, etc. And Srivas Thakur and his wife are also seemingly in Vatsalya Bhav in relation with Lord Chaitanya, at least. They're eternal associates. And primarily, there's the mood of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So by following Lord Chaitanya, meditating, focusing our attention or our consciousness on Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Lord Nityananda and his associates, this will naturally, this is the way that we can actually become purified and realize our eternal natures. This is why one of the reasons Lord Chaitanya has come. By performing Sankirtan Yajna, he's drowning the whole world in Krishna Prema, no doubt, and revealing to the world these four relationships with the Lord. So how is it revealed? It's not like here it is. It's revealed by taking shelter of the Sankirtan movement, taking shelter of Lord Chaitanya, Nityananda, and the Panchatattva and their associates, by following their process, which they perform themselves, following their footsteps, meditating on that process, absorbing ourselves in active doing. We can't obviously imitate, but we can follow in the footsteps of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his associates by performing Sankirtan Yajna, and so on, like that, worshipping Gaura Nitai, chanting Panchatattva Maha Mantra, Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, and spreading Krishna consciousness. This is the method, or let's say the equivalent of Mother Yasoda's absorption in Krishna Lila. We absorb ourselves in Sankirtan pastimes, absorb ourselves in performance of it. And devotees talk about wonderful Sankirtan events they experience, different kirtans here and there. Prabhupada leading kirtan at the manor in 73, as in anyone who was there would never leave their hearts. Things like this, as Mother Yasoda was, we may not be poeticized. Some devotees are, devotees like Dvida, he poeticizes these wonderful lilas, even within ISKCON. So they can be done, but at least to remember them is very purifying. Purifying. It's not just, oh, when you're talking about these things, let's talk about Krishna. That's also good. Of course, we should talk about Krishna from what we've heard, at least. But it's also purifying. There's a Chaitanya Lila. It's part of Chaitanya Lila, the spreading of the Sankirtan movement. And Lord Chaitanya sent his followers out, Jagai, Madai, all these pastimes. They would talk about it. How merciful Lord Nityananda delivered Jagai and Madai, and so on and so forth. Devotees are also great Jagais and Madhais, but by the mercy of Prabhupada, we've got the chance to distribute Krishna consciousness to all the countless Jagais and Madhais of the world. So that's one aspect. And then if we go another angle here of this wonderful meditation. It's not just a meditation. Also, it's a Mother Yasoda, all the things that are mentioned here. It's a complete absorption. Meditation infers something, there's us and something we're meditating on. And the spiritual is not exactly a meditation. It's a complete, absolute everything, absorption. The sweat, the eyes, the dress, Everything is simply existing for the pleasure. It's all for Krishna. Everything is for Krishna. Everything in the household of Mother Yasoda was simply for Krishna's pleasure. Nothing existed other than that. Nothing. The flowers on her hair, everything. And they're all conscious. It's like the example is given as the flowers. Here it's mentioned. The malati flowers were falling from her hair. Where were they falling? They weren't falling because they were old and getting worn out, or because you're moving too much and they're shaking like this, falling out of your hair. Ladies who wear flowers in their hair, or hippies or whatever you are, who wear flowers in their hair. It's not because you're shaking around and they're falling out. You're in a big kirtan and all the garlands falling to pieces. Okay, that may be there. It's all part of the fun. But in this case, the flowers are thinking, "What am I doing up here? I should be touching Mother Yasoda's lotus feet." And they want to fall. They want to get down there and touch the dust of Mother Yasoda's lotus feet. And what are they doing? What am I doing up here on top of Mother Yasoda? I should be down there touching her lotus feet. It's almost inconceivable to us, It's all part of it. Part of don't ask me what the sweat's thinking, I haven't heard, but the flowers were thinking like that. It's almost like you want to imagine thinking like this in this world. It just doesn't enter into people's mind. Damn it, the flowers fall on the floor. It's got dirty. I put it back up and now I don't look so beautiful, We're thinking of ourselves, The devotees are thinking of the devotees. They're thinking of the pure devotees. They're thinking of Krishna. There's nothing. There's no other thought. It's not meditating on something other. There's no. Their existences, if you want to say it like this, samadhi, complete absorption. The full description provided here. Full. It gets fuller and fuller the more we apply it. It's just full because it opens the door to the unlimited realm of loving exchange between Krishna and his devotees. We go on to the 4th verse. While Mother Yasoda was churning butter, Lord Krishna, desiring to drink the milk of her breast, appeared before her, and in order to increase her transcendental pleasure, he caught hold of the churning rod and began to prevent her from churning. Purple. Krishna was sleeping within the room. And many ladies at least have had babies. You know what it's like. Babies sleeping in the room. And as soon as he got up, he became hungry and went to his mother. He's not exactly a baby, he's a young child. Just past babyhood, he can walk now. But still, even at this stage, right, different children are different. Some of the kids, even at that stage, they still want to drink mom's breast milk. It's not, I don't know if it's common nowadays, but it was before. So what do? Mother Yasoda's buying, churning the milk, working hard, churning the yogurt to make butter. So naturally the child goes up. What can the little child do? He tugs his mother's sari or holds onto the churning rod. He wants his mother's attention. Krishna wants her attention. He wants her attention. In the material world, it comes in a negative way, and we get beaten and so on and so forth in our futile attempts to enjoy this material until we wake up. Another word, indirect way, you could say, of Krishna calling our attention, surrender unto me, preliminary stage. But on the more advanced stage, he wants our attention. And it's not just kids. I was watching one dog yesterday on Sankirtan, and the master was doing something. The dog was in such anxiety trying to get the attention of the master, right? He was going bananas, trying to get the attention of the master, who was absorbed in something else,
His phone.
On his mobile phone doing something. The dog was like, doing everything it could to get the master, jumping up on him, wagging its tail, barking, like crying and all sorts of things. And he really wanted the master's attention, Just see how much, even a dog has that loving affection to its master. What to speak of motherly affection of a child, to speak of spiritually speaking, you want the attention. And anyone who's had a kid knows what it's like. That kid doesn't care less what you're doing. You might be on, you might be the president of America and you're on a conference call, with the presence of numerous countries. If somehow or other the kid comes, he doesn't care less what you're doing. It's useless. What are you doing up there? I want your attention. Prabhupada tells a story of Gladstone, Prime Minister of England, and how his grandson was in the room in his chamber, in his governmental chamber, President Prime Minister's chamber. And normally he would be meeting with diplomats, but that day his grandson was there and nobody could meet with him. And they're wondering, what's he doing in there? No one's coming and going. Doesn't seem like there's anything going on. So one of them peeked inside and he saw Gladstone down on his all fours on the ground with his grandson whipping him. Tee up, tee up, tee up. He's like, became a horse for his grandson. This in affectionate, loving relationships is far higher than, rules and regulations, or even it's just a higher relationship. So natural, the child doesn't see all these other things. And even the parent, in one sense, he would if he could, or they would if they could, give up all these other things and give full attention to the child, because it's much sweeter and much deeper and much more pleasing and more important in reality. In this material world, we have to decide what is the most important thing. It'd be based upon whatever factors we base it on. And the same thing applies in the spiritual world. And if we go on, so Prabhupada says Krishna was sleeping, wanting to stop her from churning and drink the milk. He wanted to drink her breast milk. Child, every mother knows it. Child wakes up, starts crying, you know what it wants. It wants to drink the mother's milk. It's only natural. There in Krishna is the origin of all of these various emotions and relationships, necessities. Everything rests on Krishna. It comes from Krishna. It's the source of everything. So he stopped her from moving the churning rod. Stop. I want your breast milk. So Mother Yasoda then embraced Krishna. Next verse. Allowed him to sit down on her lap and began to look upon the face of her Lord with great love and affection. Because of her intense affection, milk was flowing from her breasts out of love. Mother's milk, when they have a child, comes, otherwise there's no milk in there. It comes out of the love, the relationship there. But when she saw that the milk pan on the oven was boiling over, she was doing many things, multitasking, churning yogurt, boiling milk on the stove. Now she has to feed baby Krishna. And what to do? She sees in the kitchen nearby, the milk is boiling over. What would you do? Ask yourself, what would you do, mothers? I don't know. You have to say, of course, I can't hear what you're saying. You might be saying different things. I don't know. But most likely you put the child down, even when I scream a little bit, but you'll go probably to the kitchen and turn the boiling milk down so it doesn't boil over, right? So she immediately left her son to take care of the overflowing milk. Although the child was not yet fully satisfied with drinking the milk of his mother's breast. Ooh, this was a bit risky to say the least. You might have a squealing child in the bedroom or something, but you can always go back and that will be okay. But in this case, it was different. So she thought, first, I must turn off the milk. And why? Prabhupada writes, everything in the household affairs of Mother Yasoda was meant for Krishna. Everything. Nothing exists. Now, this should, another example for our lives. You look around your house. Of course, you have other family members and they may have other needs. Fair enough. You have to deal with that. That's understood. But let's say everyone in the house is a devotee. So look around the house. Is there anything in your house which is really not necessary for the service of Krishna? Probably. I'll leave that up to your own, not say imagination, your own mind to see, your own decision. Maybe something is not really necessary. What we can say in our say, neophyte stages, I do need a little bit of this, I do need a little bit of that. That's understood also. But ultimately, as we advance, we should become a little bit, let go of things we don't really need. You know, a teddy bear when we were 5 years old, or whatever it is. Little things which are anchors, they are anartas, which keep us tied up in this material world. You know, also, if we need them, fine. If they're necessary for the family, let's say, nourishment, fine. If they're needed for other reasons of service, fine. We're not ready yet, okay. But ultimately, it's like that. There should be nothing in our household, as Prabhupada says here, which is not meant for Krishna's pleasure. But it takes a little time. We're still thinking of my pleasure. It takes a little time to purify, but that's our goal. That nothing should exist in our lives. And everything we see around us, we should see it like that. Other people are meant for Krishna's pleasure. The world is meant for Krishna's pleasure. Money is meant for Krishna's pleasure. Everything, probably said, roses are meant for Krishna's pleasure. We should offer them to Krishna. Even the boy and girl, he said, if you have a girlfriend, bring her, offer her to Krishna. I mean, in one sense, she's meant for Krishna's pleasure. Just going a bit further. Everything, your wife, your husband, everything is meant for Krishna's pleasure. Of course, we could say certain things. How is passing stool meant for Krishna's pleasure? Well, yes, it's one of those indirect things to keep your body fit and healthy. You have to do these things too. Why? For Krishna's pleasure. Keep your body healthy for Krishna's pleasure. Everything for Krishna's pleasure. Although Krishna was drinking the breast milk of Mother Yasoda, when she saw that the milk pan in the kitchen was overflowing, she had to take care of it immediately. And thus she left her son, who then became very angry, not having been fully satisfied with drinking the milk of her breast. Like any kid, you know, when you take away his toy or take away, you know, stop feeding them, gets upset. You sit them at a table, say your kid likes pizza. And the kid just starts eating pizza, and after 3 bites, you take the pizza away. Oh, thanks, Mum. You might say like that, but there's not with the actual meaning of thanks. Thanks, Mum. Hey, bring that back. You know, there's nothing. Give me that pizza. What are you doing? And start fighting with you, frankly speaking. Give me the pizza back. It's not gonna sit there humbly. Thanks, Mum. Thank you very much, Mum, for helping me control my senses, helping me to understand you've got more important things to do than feed me pizza. You know, definitely not. Or ice cream, maybe more profound. Example, a kid with ice cream or chocolate or some cake or something, they go bananas. They go bananas. They kick the table over, they throw a tantrum, right? Isn't it? They go wild. So Krishna, this is Krishna's pastime of a kid. This is the original kid. He's the original kid. And he's behaving like, now he's getting angry. Mother Yasoda, that Prabhupada goes on to say, sometimes one must take care of more than one item of important business for the same purpose. Now, this is interesting. Same purpose. In our case, it may be different purposes. One is feeding the kid. The other is the postman's at the door. And maybe, I've got that, important letter, or maybe I've got a text message, an important text message has just come in. I've got to attend to this important text message, or, something or another, something else other than feeding, other than the pleasure of the child. I've got to attend to something else. In this case, Mother Yasoda was thinking, the milk is boiling for Krishna's pleasure. I'm feeding Krishna my breast milk for Krishna's pleasure, but the milk is also for Krishna's pleasure. And if it boils over, it won't be there anymore for Krishna's pleasure. So she's thinking, I better go there and attend the milk first, and then come back and feed Krishna. That was her intention. She wasn't thinking, okay, enough of that. I'm off now. You've had enough. Hard luck. I've got to do other things. No, she would come back. But of course, as we know, or we're going to hear, that Krishna had another plan. Therefore, Mother Yasoda was not unjust when she left her son to take care of the overflowing milk, because everything was for Krishna's pleasure. The milk, the feeding of the breast milk, the milk on the pan, everything was for the same purpose. And when it's like that, you don't make a mistake. It may look like it, but you don't, because everything is for Krishna. It's not that this is for Krishna, that's for me, or this is for you, or this is for that, or whatever. Everything is for Krishna. On the platform of love and affection, it's the duty of the devotee to do one thing first and other things later. You have to make a decision. There has to be some form of discrimination. That's where intelligence comes in. How to discriminate. And we all have to face this every day, practically speaking. What is our priority? The proper intuition by which to do this is given by Krishna. Now try to meditate on this. It's not a question of constantly asking people, what do I do? What do I do next? What do I do next? You may have to at a certain stage. It's like a kid. When you're raising a child, it may ask, Mommy, how do I do this? How do I do that? How do I do this? But you expect when that child is 15, 16 years old, they know how to do it. They should have learned by then. But on the spiritual platform, and on the material platform, also Krishna is guiding everyone's wanderings. But on the spiritual platform, Prabhupada says here, Tesham satata yuktanam bhajatam pratiputakam dadami bodhi yogam tam yena mama piyantite. In Krishna consciousness, everything is dynamic. Krishna guides the devotee in what to do first and what to do next on the platform of absolute truth. This is referring to pure devotees of the Lord. It refers to any devotee too, who is sincerely taking shelter of the holy name. Their spiritual master of Krishna will guide them from within. And it's not a mistake, even if it looks like one, because we're sincerely taking shelter of Krishna. Please kindly guide me. What shall I do now? Or what spiritual master? Doesn't mean you have to, constantly be externally asking. If everyone to do that, there would be no question of, fulfillment, let's say, of everyone's needs. Not possible. We have to also be a little conscious that Krishna is in our heart as the super soul, guiding the wanderings of all living beings at our stage where we haven't actually awoken our dormant loving affection for Krishna in a particular mood. The mood now is he is here, we are here in this world, he's our guide. He guides the materialists according to their material desires and karmas. For the devotee, it depends on our degree or our sincerity of degree in devotional service. He will not misguide a sincere devotee. Even if there appears to be a fault, there is a lesson to be learned. It's something we have to let go of. It's something which has to be understood through apparently making a mistake. But the intention was not that we're taking shelter of our mundane intelligence, but we're taking shelter of Krishna. Even if we have good intelligence, we still take shelter of Krishna. Please guide me. This intelligence which I got is not mine. It is something, whatever it is, ultimately given by you. Please guide me and I use it properly for your service, for your pleasure. This mood is a nice mood shown here by Prabhupada in the purport, and of course by Mother Yasoda. It was spontaneous. His whole life has no other motive. Intelligence means ultimately complete connection with Krishna and seeing everything in relationship with Krishna. So her household affairs were all only for Krishna's pleasure. There was nothing existing in the colors of her dresses, the type of way she dresses, the way she has her, whatever. So makeup is a modern term, but decoration, everything was for the pleasure of Krishna only. She didn't care less about what other people thought. She only thought about what Krishna thought, what was for Krishna's pleasure. We tend to think about ourselves, how I will attract people to me by what I say, by what I do, by how I dress, etc., etc. Maria Soda was not. She was simply thinking, this is for Krishna's pleasure. And it was measured to the degree that Krishna was pleased. So this was a very interesting pastime. Let's see. Okay, I'll just mention one more thing. I won't have to finish for this morning, and we'll carry on sometime. Moving on with this pastime at another time. But another interesting feature about this is, as we heard early on about the flowers, we could say the same thing about the milk. Now, the milk was being boiled by Mother, as was the yogurt being churned. The milk was being boiled to make milk sweets or something or other for Krishna's pleasure. The milk is not just milk. As we look, a bottle of milk, put 6 bottles of milk in. We don't think of it beyond the quantity, measurable quantity. something to produce sense enjoyment of one kind or another. But Mother Yasoda was doing this for Krishna's pleasure, for Krishna's sense enjoyment. And the milk is also conscious. And is described, I think, I'm not sure, Sanatana Goswami, someone describes in their commentary that milk was thinking, oh my goodness, what is the use of our existing anymore? Now Mother Yasoda is feeding, they could see it, you see, the milk could see Mother Yasoda feeding her own breast milk to baby Krishna. And the milk started to think, what's the use of our existence? We are nothing. We are useless compared to that milk of Mother Yasoda's breast. There's no point in our existing anymore. Let's commit suicide. So the milk thought, let's all boil over and burn to death in the fire underneath us. Point in our existence. Again, transcendentally, there's no suicide. But this is the thought, the consciousness of the devotees. That milk is devoted. It's not just milk. I don't know. It's hard to go much further than that. Fully conscious devotee or devotees thinking like this, manifesting that form for Krishna's pleasure. Form and loving, affectionate desire are simultaneous on the spiritual realm. Not something you have to work towards or go. We were seeing different things yesterday. I couldn't believe it, on Sankirtan. We were in one street, they had this place there, they're decorating people's nails. Is that what they call it? You know, incredible. People spend hundreds of dollars trying to decorate their nails in such and such a way. And they have to work for it and then decorate it. We saw one girl in the metro yesterday. Her nails were like, how would you describe it, Romini?
Like fangs.
Fangs, like fangs, different colored fangs, sharp as razors, long, sticking out 1 or 2 inches from her feet, her fingers, and sharp, coming to a sharp point to the end like this. Horrendous, huh? And other people dressed in black with all the things around the eyes. On the people decorated themselves in various ways according to their desires. The body itself is, at least a form combined with karma of a decoration for our pleasure or our karmic reaction at the same time. But people are so busy trying to do this, different colored hairs, long hairs, no hairs, colorful hairs, curly hairs, this color, that color, these things, that thing, pins and needles all over the place, black, tight, black leather suits, all sorts of things we were seeing, top black with red laces and really everything red and black. So mode of ignorance and passion, so strong, so controlled. They're controlled by the modes of nature, according to the desire and karma, completely under the modes of nature. Well, Mother Yasoda is completely under the desire of Krishna, as any devotee is. Simply whatever you want, my Lord. Do what you want with me. I don't have any meaning except for your pleasure. So what can we say? We're a little bit off from there. I still think of our own pleasure. But at least we can think in terms of trying to assist the pure devotee Srila Prabhupada in spreading this Krishna consciousness movement wherever we can. In whatever way we can, we may be old-fashioned, new-fashioned, it doesn't make any difference. It's all temporary things. The real thing is the desire. I was online watching, I couldn't go online because I was doing something else, but watching last week's Vaisheshika Prabhu, on book distribution, inspiration, Bhadra, especially the post-mortem on the Bhadra Punim, what happened worldwide. So that was on Australia, New Zealand, Fiji. Many of you were there, Malaysia, that part of the world, Philippines, all that part of the world. How many Bhagavatam sets they distributed during the Bhadra Punim festival? And one of the things in between, just to keep people's attention, does a little quiz, little test. Okay, here we go. A few simple questions, easy. Just by tapping which one you think's right. Most of them, everyone got it right, but this one, not everyone got it right. It was a little thing on how can we distribute books? You know, is it possible to distribute books if the books are still at the printer? Is it possible to distribute books if the books are on the boat coming from the printer or the train or whatever it is to where you are? Is it possible to distribute books if you have no desire to distribute books? Which of the three is correct? Is it all three? Or is it one of them, two of them, three of them? Many people put all three, some put two, some put one. Very few put one. Most put three. Well, how can you distribute books if you don't have books, he said. He said, well, you can. You're wrong, he said. She said, wrong. Only one of these is not possible. Even if the books are at the printer, you can distribute books. He said, even if they're at the printer or on the boat, you can still distribute books. How can you do that? It's not possible, some people say. The third one is the only one, which is the one you cannot. If you have no will, then you cannot. But if they're at the printer, you can sell them in advance. We used to do that on the library program. Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj, Kalakanta, and so many wonderful devotees were on the library program. I spent a little time with them. And we would take pre-orders for the Bhagavatam set. They're not even printed yet. The professors, the libraries would buy them in advance. When they come, they get them. So even if the books are at the printer, especially if it's something like Bhagavatam, you can get them in advance. You can take orders, you can take payments in advance. A little more difficult on the street, obviously. But there are many ways. And he said, just to prove this, he said, in France, just a few weeks ago for Badr Purnim, we don't have the Bhagavatam printed yet in French. He said, but the devotees in France distributed over 200, he said, didn't say how many, he said, hundreds of sets of Bhagavatams were pre-purchased for when they're actually printed. The devotees or people had already purchased these sets of Bhagavatams in advance. So like that, you have to have the will, the desire. That's all. If the desire is there, Krishna will fulfill your will. This is the point. So we have to cultivate the will, the desire. And Prabhupada shows, if you really want to find out more about that, read or go over Makane Bhagavat Dharma, Prabhupada's poem on arrival in America, about his strong will. It is my desire, my Lord, that you may help them to understand the Srimad Bhagavatam. It's the desire of the pure devotee of the Lord. So whatever it is, it's the mercy of the Lord, and we just have to have the desire that we desire that mercy in the proper way, that we may become instruments of the pure devotee of the Lord to both to cultivate our Krishna consciousness and spread Krishna consciousness to us. So I'm going to finish there, and thank you all very, very much for being with us today. For those who are still with us, I know some of you are busy, it's late night in some parts of the world, but thank you for joining us today. So if there are any questions, we'll look at the chat message here. I don't know what that is. Recently, where are you and which mountain is your backside? Oh, that's one way of writing it. Okay, I'll take it in the positive way. Where am I now? I think I did mention in the beginning, perhaps you were not with us right at the very beginning. Where am I? Well, I'm not in Vrindavan. Exactly. This is a modern technology has, and I don't know how to do these things, but the devotee with me, his name is Nanda, and Prabhu was quite experienced at modern technology, computer technology, that is. So he has put this on. You can do it with some button pressing of the computer. You get any picture you like behind you as a backdrop. It's like a computer backdrop. It's not a literal one. It's a computer one. Is that right?
Yes.
Yeah. It's just a picture which appears in modern. One of the good things of the day. I haven't learned how to do it, but at least I know it can be done. And so he's put that on. It's a picture of Govardhan Hill. I think Janananda Maharaj or one of his disciples or followers or somebody took the picture of Govardhan Hill, which I have on my computer, and we saved that picture on desktop, and then somehow or another he was able to put it on as a back screen for our little talk today. And I'm in Paris. I should have put a picture of the Eiffel Tower behind me, or the awful tower, or some other famous landmark of Paris. What are the landmarks of famous Sacré-Cœur? Arc de Triomphe, of course, is a Sacré-Cœur, the famous church on the mount, on the hill, or the Louvre. Many landmarks in Paris. Notre Dame. So many landmarks are there in Paris. So welcome. Thank you for reminding us where we are and where we should be. Can we be in a mood of Radha and Krishna, thinking about them, or should we think about Chaitanya or Prabhupada, or we can just think in one of them? Thank you. Well, we follow what our acharyas say. It's not a matter of necessarily one's right and one's wrong. We follow what Srila Prabhupada as much as we can, and obviously different devotees are going to be inspired, even at this stage. We're not machines. We are conscious beings, even if we are covered by the modes of nature. We're still nonetheless conscious living beings who do have various natures, differences, and so on and so forth. The ultimate goal is the same, love of God, but we may have at different stages. You will find also you'll be more attracted to certain aspects of the philosophy, certain aspects of the pastimes of the Lord. We don't know what our permanent state is yet. And as we progress, you'll find that different pastimes will become more or less attractive on our path. Where's the question gone? It disappeared.
Yes, because actually she wanted to say specifically when distributing books. She added it.
Oh, okay. Specifically when distributing books. Okay, well, it could be when doing anything, distributing books, cooking, cleaning, whatever it is. Some things you may not be able to think of anything else other than what you're doing, or you shouldn't be. Maybe when you're absorbed in some practical activity like management or something, you've got to be focused on what you're doing. You can, in between, you may be remembering your spiritual master, probably in that situation. I don't know. I mean, I'm more likely to remember how Prabhupada would deal with that situation which you're in. When you're cooking, you might be more in the mood of Srila Prabhupada, also thinking of Prabhupada, not in the mood of necessarily, but remembering them and praying that you do it in a way which will please them. We would say. We can't imitate their mood, but we can at least pray to them, because Prabhupada told us how to cook, so you can remember him, or great devotees who told us how to cook. Who else cooks very nicely? Radharani cooks very nicely, so she's the best of all the cooks. You can remember, pray to her that I may cook this nicely for your Krishna. You can think like that. When you're on book distribution, who do we think of? Well, again, it may vary, but who are the great book distributors? You could say, in one sense, Lord Nityananda, and it was the preacher of the holy name in all the marketplaces, the same thing. Brihat Madanga, or ordinary Madanga, the preacher of the holy name in every marketplace, Srila Prabhupada himself. It's good to relate to someone who's, and you can say easily, you can connect with that particular service and pray to them for their, because it's easier to kind of connect it with your service in a sense. Because if you think of Krishna or Lord Chaitanya, every situation is always good. When you're on Harinam, Sankirtan, you can meditate on Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his followers, that pure Prema Sankirtan, which they're performing. We're not Prema Sankirtan, we're just trying to perform some kind of, what we say, preliminary stages towards that Prema Sankirtan, but we can pray to them that our Sankirtan may become pure for their pleasure, in the mood which they have in their performance of Sankirtan. Like this, something which is a little relevant to what we're doing. It's good to pray to those particular persons. The same thing when we have obstacles on our path. The scriptures are full of different descriptions. You pray to Sanat Goswami or Sanat Kumara, rather, the four Kumaras, if you're overwhelmed with lusty desires, or Tulsi Devi, or different statements are there in different situations. Ultimately, of course, chanting Hare Krishna is, you say, the one-stop shop. You get everything there by chanting Hare Krishna, whether you're on Sankirtan, whether you're in the kitchen, whether you're managing. It may be a little more difficult if you're in a management meeting, and whilst everyone else is talking and going, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Prabhu, can you be quiet, please? Hare Krishna, chanting Hare Krishna is being quiet. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Prabhu said it's silence. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. If you got anything, Prabhu, any comment? Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna. You may have to, use your common sense there, etc., etc. And you may have a service which you really have to concentrate on, and it may not be directly like thinking of Krishna or thinking, but Prabhupada said that one time when I think it was it Bhagavatam? One of Prabhupada's Bhagava rather, one of Prabhupada's photographers, it may have been Bhagava, one of them, said to Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada, you know, I mean, I have no love, I have no devotion. I kind of, you know, I don't think of Krishna at all. And I just doesn't happen hardly. You know, I see your other devotees, they're always, you know, talking about Krishna and thinking about, seems like there's so much. And Prabhupada said, what are you thinking about? He said, I'm just thinking about making films and photography. What for? Prabhupada said, well, what of? What for? Well, they're about you, Srila Prabhupada. What for? Oh, so that devotees can get the opportunity to see you, and, you know, when you're here and there and everywhere. So Prabhupada said, so the purpose is to serve your spiritual master. That is love. That is love. You're doing it for the pleasure of the spirit, not for your own pleasure. You don't need to do it. You're not getting money out of this. You're doing it for the pleasure of your spiritual master automatically. Even if you're not remembering them directly, the service itself is completely connected. So even if we can't remember, the service itself, to the degree that we're doing it without expectation for ourselves, of course, is nonetheless a meditation on Krishna in his form of seva or service. But if we can, tasmat sarveshu kaleshu, Krishna says, Bhagavad Gita, tasmat sarveshu kaleshu, mamanushu yucha, mayopita manobadhi, mame vaishishya shangshayaha. You know, always think of me, and when you're performing your activities, whatever you're doing, think of me in the form of Krishna. Your mind fixed on me, your activity is dedicated to me, you will attain me without a doubt. So if we can at the same time think of Krishna, Krishna says in the 18th chapter again and again, you know, be conscious of me. Conscious of me when we're doing our things. How much we can be conscious, how we're conscious is all good. But I again repeat what I said in the beginning, it's good to remember that particular, what reminds you of the personality related to that particular activity. Even in Sankirtan, you might think of Vaisheshika, for instance, when you're distributing books, because his heart is completely at Prabhupada's lotus feet on wanting to be an instrument to distribute the knowledge which Prabhupada is giving to this world. So thinking of what he said, how he distributes books, the mood he's in, is also the same vein. Or it may be another distributor of books, something which inspires us to remember and to give us the spirit, the enthusiasm, the purity, the humility, whatever it is, to persevere in our endeavored service. And not just depending on the results. Oh, this is great. I distributed 50 Bhagavad Gitas today. And then, you know, next day you won't do one, because Krishna wants our consciousness to become purified. Thank you for that lovely meditation. How can we connect to devotional service? Kind of utopic thinking. Maybe how to voluntarily surrender such thinking. Utopic?
It's like everything is
utopia,
ideal.
Utopia, yeah.
Ideal.
Well, one thing just to encourage, Prabhupada said there is no utopia in this world, so don't expect, you know, you're going to be 100% there. You know, there's no utopia in this world. There's always going to be some degree of, and that's all part of our going back to Krishna, turning back to Krishna. We constantly forget. Our intelligence is constantly drawn away from, you could say, our objective goal. Our mind specifically is easily distracted. It's hard to, it's not so much, you know, I sometimes get caught by Maya, is practically speaking always. It's not one that we said to Prabhupada, sometimes in Maya, Prabhupada said, no, always. You're always in Maya. To some degree or another, we're all affected like this. So the voluntary surrender, generally speaking, of course, everything starts on a subtle platform. So you think, let me do some service. It may not be pure. Let me do some service. And that service, you do your service, creates what's called a vritti, or an impression. It may develop into a samskara or something strong impression, but some thought comes on your mind when you do service. You think about it. You may not even think, it may be forced to do it, but whatever it is, it creates a vritti, a little impression on your heart of a picture of, say, washing pots. And then, those pictures gradually grow. And then they come up in your mind, some memory of washing pots at the temple, or something you did, a book you distributed to someone somewhere, or a harinam you went on, or the deities, the beautiful dresses they were wearing, or some devotee, or something or another, something you heard. It creates ritis, little impressions, one by one. So in devotional service, we try to fill the screen of our consciousness with innumerable ritis, so that it may be a bit of a collage, a bit of a jumble set in the beginning, but every one of them is Krishna, some form of Krishna. It may not be very specific. It may be a bit of devotion. It may be a picture of Krishna. It may be something we heard. It may be a devotee. It may be a place of devotional, Vrindavan, something, all kinds of little pictures which form ultimately a samskara, and a deep impression, a Krishna conscious impression in our heart. So that when our mind wanders, it wanders to another form, another aspect related to Krishna. This is the idea. And that may not be, you could say, absolute in the sense of an eternal principle in itself, but it is the background, or it is the state of our consciousness, which when we leave our body, we'll be thinking of some form or another, which we picked up, all those little vrittis during our lifetime. And even if it's not complete, Krishna is in our hearts, and he's seeing that you're making that endeavor. The endeavor starts, I want to serve. You're going to serve the devotee, or serve the movement, or serve Krishna, or do something like that. Something is there. There should be some positive will on our part, desire on our part, which must manifest. Prabhupada said, this is not armchair. This movement is not for armchair philosophy, speculating. It is for practical execution of devotional service. So we put that into action according to the situation, according to the advice or guidance of our devotees around us, if we're lucky to have any, or our authority, or whatever it may be. We put that into practice, and gradually, that will create vrittis in our heart, and slowly the fan of material existence will slow down, as long as we don't plug in again and start watching those mundane movies, looking at this and looking at that, dreaming of all kinds of mundane stuff. That will happen, but we have to draw ourselves, as Krishna says, draw the mind back under the control of the self. It will wander back to all those pictures that we have from the past. It will wander off to some other object around us now, but draw it back again. It's just the process. Draw it back. And the more that we fill our hearts, the more easy it will be to draw back to Krishna consciousness again. But I would say one of the best ways to occupy this restless mind is to be thinking of ways we can spread Krishna consciousness according to our situation. How I, or whatever I think I am at this point in time, can be engaged in spreading Krishna consciousness. This is a kind of combination of practical use of our present conditioning, an objective goal to spread Krishna consciousness, and full absorption, purification, and so on can all take place in relative stages by thinking how I can improve my service, how I can please the devotees more, how I can distribute Krishna consciousness around the world, like that. Because it engages our present. It may be your computer wallet, so you can think about how to do it online. Maybe you're a poet, how we can poeticize, an artist, how we can artistically present. You're very enthusiastic, how we can be enthusiastic. Yesterday, I'll give an example. Yesterday on Sankirtan, we were on Harinam. How many hours? 4 or 5 hours we went for Harinam yesterday in Paris. And we were in an area, I don't know the name of the area, but there's lots of restaurants there.
Les Marais.
Huh?
Les Marais.
Les Marais. And hundreds of restaurants, and thousands of people eating out. So we did Harinams, we were there yesterday amongst other places. And when we were in one little square there, we were dancing and chanting. I don't know, we were just absorbed in what we were doing, I guess. You were just absorbed in chanting and hearing. You don't have to think, you don't need to think of anything else. If the thought comes, fine, but just try to focus on hearing and chanting. Don't have to think of anything else. And you can say the same thing when you're doing books, just focus on how I can, whatever it takes, but how I can distribute books, how I can distribute more books, whatever it takes, prayer, meditation, whatever it takes. But the focus is the purpose. The purpose is to distribute books. It's not just to go out there to think of Krishna. You're out there to distribute books. So we're out there to chant the holy name. We're dancing and chanting, and I guess we looked happy. I have no idea what we looked like. We're just dancing and chanting. And one of the devotees, Janananda and Prabhupada's wife, Sophie, she was distributing books. And one man came up to her and said, wait a minute, this book here, will it make me happy like those people over there? He said, yes, it will. I said, then I'll take it. And took one book and gave her 14 euros for the book. You see, we weren't thinking of anything. She wasn't thinking of anything. Immediately the process worked. The man saw that we want to be happy. I want to be happy. These people look happy because we're absorbed in Krishna, chanting the holy names. It's not mechanical in this case exactly. Somehow or another, Krishna inspired that man, and he received Prabhupada's Bhagavad Gita, and probably a few other books too. I like that. Absorption. We can be absorbed in our service. How to cook this very, very nicely. You don't have to think of anything else. How to drive the car very nicely. Why? So that Krishna will be pleased. The devotees will be protected. They won't have an anxiety when we're driving the car. Ram on the brakes. You know. I want to get out of here. What's worried? I know how I'm driving. You might know how you're driving, but I don't know how you're driving. And it's causing me anxiety. So thinking like that, the welfare of other devotees, the welfare, what will please Prabhupada, how Prabhupada would like it done. Why we're out there on the street? We're not out there to look in the shops. We're not out there so that people look at us to have fun. We're out there to serve Prabhupada and Krishna, to distribute books or to chant the holy name. So absorbing ourselves in the purpose of what we're doing is also meditating on Krishna. And if it helps by remembering or praying to Lord Nityananda, which it always does, of course, or sometimes we find ourselves drifting away. My Lord, please help me to get back onto the purpose, the goal of my being here, or I'm cooking and I'm not cooking properly, or Prabhupada, I'm so, whatever it is, you know, then fine. But also we should ask, we shouldn't just depend on that. We're not on such an advanced level. Ask other devotees how I can do this more nicely for Krishna's pleasure. How I can do it better for Krishna's pleasure. How I can cook more nicer for Krishna's pleasure. Not just I know, I like to know, I know how to cook. We do not know how to cook. Even if we're the professional cook in the Hilton Hotel, we don't know how to cook. We have to learn how to do it for Krishna's pleasure. And that comes from here and from others. Same thing with book distribution. We may be a book salesman. Someone said the other day, that guy would be, who was that? That guy would be a good book distributor if he became, guys selling. Yeah, where we're staying in Paris, it's kind of one of those sectors of Paris. There's a lot of, let's say, immigrant people living here. There's a lot of salesmen on the street selling cigarettes and even more untouchable items, pushing them on people. Cigarette, Marlboro. Is it Marlboro that they sell? Marlboro. It's kind of a popular one, I guess. And people are being hassled by anything by these people, you know. And he came up to us, he started laughing because he realized we weren't a candidate for his cigarettes. One of the ones said, if he was only a devotee, he'd be a good book salesman. I said, he might really disturb people a lot because he's really annoying. You know, he just pokes it in people's stomachs and hassles them. That's not how we distribute books. The little element is there, but not to the degree you disturb people. So that you learn these things, you know, from others who have more experience. And this takes time. And meditation, at least we start before we do our service. We always used to chant before we did any service when I first joined. Om Jnana Timirandasya Gananjana Shalakaya Chakshura Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Svayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Svapadantikam. We chant the whole lot, but at least those two prayers said that, you know, you chant those two prayers with consciousness. You know, you're going to succeed. Even if you don't do any books, the day is successful. I was thinking yesterday when I was trying to distribute some books in a place in Paris called Hôtel de Ville, and every book distributor knows this is one of the toughest places in Paris for book distribution. I was only doing it because the Harinam party were there, and you know, there's a couple of others trying also, and it's so tough. After about an hour, I distributed 0 books. And I remember one devotee named Acharya Prabhu, who was in Paris years ago, and he would many times come back from the Sankirtan with 1 book, no books. And I'd say, how was the day, Acharya? And he said, really good day today. I said, how many books were this? He said, none. I said, what do you mean, no good day? He said, great day for Trinada peace and Nichina, Tarora peace Hishna. We're here to develop tolerance, humility, and respect for others. Today was a really good day. I thought, wow. I took him to England one time and I said, wow, it's really, don't you see the difference here in France and England? He said, well, it's because it's like devotees were doing 3 or 4 times more books in the same time on the street in London, in England, London, another town. And he said, oh no, it's much better in France. I said, what do you mean by that? He said, in France, it's, okay, it's much, much better to, take shelter of the holy name, to take shelter of Krishna in a situation where the scores, when you're getting rebuked, or no thank you, no merci, no, nothing at all. I mean, there's just blank, complete blank for them, sometimes for an hour or two. He says it's much better. It's one way of looking at it. I'm not so advanced like that. I'd like to see some results there. But he was like that. He was so dedicated to his Guru Maharaj and the service being performed. Whatever results you give, my Lord, that's up to you. I'll try my best. Anyway, different ways of looking at it. Hare Krishna. Thank you for that. How can one kind of rasa be considered higher than the other when devotees in the spiritual will experience the same amount of bliss and with Krishna? I guess we'll have to, you won't know when you're there. There's one also considered more elevated if they have a desire to be. Thank you, Monish. Well, you're probably already there, so you should answer this. He's such a great soul. Young man, such a great soul and a young body. Well, what can I say? A conditioned soul is only thinking of breakfast right now. And I've got some burfi over there. I prefer burfi to whatever, gulabs. Which is better? Which you prefer, gulabs or burfi? Which is better? Huh? Burfi or gulabs? Maybe neither. I don't know. We all have our different tastes, and for us, that is it. That's the best. Someone else will say, ew, I hate gulabs. What's this? Burfi. Okay, Fatima says burfi. Great. I agree. Burfi. Okay, so for me, burfi is best, but for someone else, gulabs, ladu, something else is best, whatever it is. It's not the one's best, so we're individuals, And no matter how much I try to convince you that gulabs are best, I'm not going to be able to convince you that gulabs are best because you like burfi. So that's easy to understand on the spiritual plane. That someone is in Madhurya Ras, someone's in Vatsalya Ras, someone's in Sakya Ras. For them, that's it. They may appreciate, something else is better. But love is a different thing. Even on this plane, if you love somebody, that person may not be so beautiful as somebody else, and everyone has to agree with that. But in your heart, they're the most beautiful person. Not just because of their looks or their behavior, but because of you and them. You're just compatible. Love is a compatibility, is an eternal compatibility of the soul with the absolute personality of Godhead. It's compatible. According to us, it's a two-way thing, compatibility. By rasa, it has bhakti, rasa, amrita, sindhu. It's not just, it's a mellow taste, a compatible taste. It's a relationship. And the whole Bhagavad Nectar Devotion, I could have read from to Nectar Devotion. Next week we'll read on that subject regarding Damodara lila. But it's the whole Bhagavad Nectar Devotion is based on compatibility. Compatibility of the soul with Krishna. And right now our compatibility with Krishna we're incompatible right now. We're in an incompatible state of consciousness. That instant incompatible state of consciousness becomes compatible from the ground level up. It starts with dasya ras, at our stage dasya ras. We're not interested in many people are interested in suyogya mukti, or the neutral stage, the shanta ras. We're not, that's there automatically. Everything around us is related, but we're actively aspiring for dasya ras. When dasya ras becomes pure, unmotivated by the indirect aspect or the material aspect, that dasya will naturally is purified, when it evolve naturally into an awakening, a spontaneous awakening for one of the other rasas. Now, when it said one is higher than the other, is because Madhurya Ras contains all elements in different times of all the other rasas, whereas Vatsalya rasa does not contain Madhurya rasa. Sakya rasa does not contain. Now there are sometimes cases where it does, but primarily its main element does not contain it. Like Balaram we generally see him in Sakya rasa, for instance, but he's also in Vatsalya rasa. He is not an ordinary jiva. Generally, the jiva's soul is specific. They're in a particular rasa, say the B. But sometimes the Lord's expansions, his eternal associates, may or may not be, they may manifest other rasas too. But that's how Madhurya rasa contains everything. Everything's within it. It's like Prabhupada gives example. If you've got $1 million, you've got $1,000, you've got $100, you've got $10. You got $10, great, it's fine. It's $10, it's complete. But it's not $1 million. It doesn't have $1 million there. It only has 10. So Dasya rasa, the living entity who has that staibhav, that eternal nature, is completely satisfied in the, but he doesn't aspire, like Hanuman, does not aspire to anything else. When Lord Chaitanya was talking with Venkatabat in Sri Rangam, Venkatabat was a great devotee of Lakshmi Narayan. He's in Dasya rasa in Vaikuntha Bhav. And but when they were discussing, Lord Chaitanya for fun was arguing with him about the relative level of devotion of Madhurya rasa as opposed to Dasya rasa. And although Venkatabat was convinced that ultimately Madhurya rasa, which is imbued with much deeper degrees of loving relationship and with various, say, elements which are not contained within Dasya rasa, he accepted all of that, but he couldn't give up his mood of Dasya rasa because it's his eternal constitutional nature. Even though you recognize it, Hanuman was in a particular mood of service to his Lord, he could never give up that mood. And his devotees are in the same mood. So it's a matter of coming to that. And there may be appreciation. There was a time even when Lakshmi wanted to enter into this, you heard about the Rasa Lila. Lakshmi Devi herself wanted to enter in, she couldn't enter in because she doesn't have the mood. It's not her constitution. But that's on a higher level. The jiva is not even aware of that. As I said earlier on, when you're in a particular situation, you're not aware of the pleasure someone else is getting from another situation, even if it is, you can say, more enriched. A dog cannot appreciate the pleasure of a human being, although generally speaking, it's said that the pleasure of a human being is, but it said two things. One, that the pleasure is the same, but on the other level, obviously, it's much more varied. It has much more within it, etc., than that of a dog or a lower living entity in this world. Their pleasure is very lesser in that sense from different things, at least, very limited, but they're satisfied in that limited situation. So Madhurya rasa is the complete fulfillment of all the rasas in terms of its just its completeness. Contains everything. Okay, I guess that's it. Burfi, gulabs. Okay, competition going on here. Is it Burfi or hands up? Those for gulabs, those for Burfi. All those in favor of gulabs? I can't see you. Put your hand. Gulabs. Gulabs first. Who's first for gulabs? Who's first for Burfi? Hands up to Burfi. There, both. You got your hands up for both. You got your hands up for both. What are you doing over there? Anyway, you can have both. Burfi can form into gulabs if that's what you want in the spiritual world. Don't worry about it. Thank you. Hare Krishna. So I'm going to take my Burfi breakfast now, and you can have your gulaba lunch or dinner. Okay. We're finished with Kirtan. We'll carry on next week if God wills. Someone's got their hand raised. Doris, where are you? Where's your hand? I can't see it.
Many of them, because you asked who likes this or that.
Okay, well, someone's written here has got their hands raised. I guess it's something or another. I don't know what you like.
That's the little icon.
Oh, there you go. What does that mean?
Your hand. You can raise your hand.
Yeah, but what is it? Burfi or gulab? Well, you got a question, is it? Where are you?
No, it was just for the Burfi or gulab.
Oh, okay, that's good. Still got your hands up. You're really into
raise
it.
My hand like this.
You're really good to it. If I raise my hand, does that thing come on?
No.
Oh, okay.
Let's raise it.
What do you like, Jagannath Priya? What's your favorite? Come on. Jagannath Priya, what do you like? Come on, unmute. Let's hear Jagannath Priya's. Where are you, in Bratislava? in Bratislava. No sound, she probably didn't understand what I'm saying anyway. And even if she did, she wouldn't know how to do it. We don't know what it is. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Oh, cool, we've got to be quiet. I'm in an apartment building. You have to be careful. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. I bet you haven't heard that tune for a long time, right? That's one of the really old tunes. I haven't heard it for years. I haven't sung it for years, maybe 50, 20, 30 years I haven't sung this tune. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare, Krishna Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Prabhupada ki jai, Shri Damodara Lila ki jai, Shri Kartika Vrata ki jai, Shri Giri Govardhana ki jai, Shri Vrindavan Dham ki jai, Shri Damodarastakam ki jai, Gaura Premanandi. Hare Krishna. I see some of you have got Govardhan Hill on your backdrops now. It's nice, and you know how to do it also. It's a nice backdrop to have. Like, it's nice to see people's fans or see their pictures on the wall and so on. Nice to have Govardhan Lila. Hare Krishna. So, is there anything else? I can't think. Anything else, Rasika? Where's the burfi? Bring in that packet quickly. Bring that Mahaprasadam burfi from Radha Parasishwar. We have burfi from Krishna Balaram, Radha Govinda Madhava, Krishna Balaram, and we have burfi from Radha Parasishwar. And I'm going to give you now some nice burfi from Radha Parasishwar, maybe from Krishna Balaram. All right. So here we go. Here you have. Please enjoy this burfi. I don't have any gulab jamans. Here's burfi from Krishna Balaram and Radha Govinda Madhava. And Gauranitai is a bit more picturesque, maybe you could say. Bit of a design there. Yeah, enjoy it. There you go. Open your mouths. Everyone open your mouths. Wide. Ah. Okay, and one from Paris. Ah. There we go.
Yeah, yes.
Ah, there you go. Nice burfi. It's very sweet and tasty. One more. There you go. Oh, it disappeared. Oh, it's gone. I ate it. Sometimes it disappears in my mouth. There, it's in my mouth. Oh, it's there. It's coming and going. There you go. Jai. Manifest, unmanifest is spiritual burfi. Sometimes it's apricot. Sometimes it's prakat. You can't see it sometimes. There you go. It's prakat. Apricot. So have a great day and a great Kartik, and Hare Krishna. Keep chanting the holy names of Krishna with all conscious as you can. We say with all your heart. It means as much consciousness as we can, much absorption, fully, everything. Give everything. Utilize your whole mind, ears, your eyes, good nose, tongue, everything, body, everything, trying to chant the holy name of Krishna, spreading Krishna's mercy. Good. Thank you all very much. Then I'll say good morning, good night, good afternoon, good evening, whatever it is, wherever you are. And thank you all for being with us. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Hari Bo, Hari Bo, Hari Bo.
Hari Bo.
Hari
Bo.
Hey.
Hari Bo.
Prashadam.
Hari Bol,
Jai.
Hare Krishna,
Jai.
Hari Govardhan.
Prashadam, I
Jai,
Ki Jai.
Jai.
Mr. Srila Prabhupada.
Jai.
Hare Krishna, Guru Maharaj.
Hari Bo.
Hari Bo. Hare Krishna Guru Maharaj ji.
Hare Krishna, Guru Maharaj.